Question 3 is your standard discrete random variables question. We've got our probability table here. I've just reproduced it down here, and we've got to find out the mean. And the version to find out the mean, the method to find out the mean is you times x times the probability of x, or in this case, r times the probability of r. So we're just timesing these values together each time, and then when we've times them all together, we add it all up. And the expected value of x is the sum of all of these numbers here, and they all add up to 30 over 16. Then it asks us to find out the variance as well, and the first thing to find out the variance is we need to find out the expected value of r squared. So this is 1 squared times the probability, 2 squared times the probability there, 3 squared times the probability here, and 4 squared times the probability here. And again, when you add all of these things up, you get the expected value of x squared, and I make that 70 over 16. There's a formula, you have to remember this formula, that the variance of x is equal to the expected value of x squared minus the expected value of x squared. And we've got those two numbers, 70 over 16 minus 30 over 16 squared, and that works out to be 55 over 64. It does say exact here, doesn't it? I mean, exact there, so I wouldn't write it as a decimal around it. I would just leave it as that fraction. So there's 4 marks for doing that. That's very standard. Lots of papers will have that on. Part B of this, then, takes a bit of reading. Just read through it a few times until you totally understand it. But it says, it talks about when they score at least 3 goals, this past bit. So at least 3 goals, that's this bit here in the table. The probability of scoring at least 3 goals is 4 out of 16, isn't it? And they're playing 32 games in the season, so 4 out of 16, or a quarter of 32, makes 8 games. And that's just setting you up ready to do part 2 here then. They win 90% of those games. So we've got 90% of 32 times 4 over 16. That's 8 games. We just said that. And they're going to win 90% of that. Well, 90% of 8 is 7.2 games, isn't it? 90% of 8, 7.2 games. Don't worry about the 0.2 for now. Now let's go for the next bit. The next thing, it says they expect to win half in which they score 2 goals. So half, that's 50% of... Now, how do they score 2 goals? Well, 2 goals is 32 times 5 over 16. So that's 10 games, isn't it? Half of 10 games, they're going to win 5 games here then. And the other bit, they're going to win 20% of the ones in which they score 1 goal. So we got 20% of, let's work out how many that's going to score 1 goal in. 32 games, 7 over 16. Well, that's 14 games there, isn't it? So 20% of 14 games is 2.8 games. Told you not to worry about that 0.2. Add up all of those games there, and that gives them a grand total of 15 games that they would expect to win.